Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I have our next mentor is Steve Benson. Steve, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I got you there.
Super. Welcome, Steve. So first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Steve because he came on to replace a mentor that was unable to be here today last minute. So super grateful that you're able to step in, Steve, and I'm very excited that you are here. Steve is a rope technician, an instructor, and assessor with Celtic Falcon. And Steve, can you tell the students what a rope technician is and what it is that you do?
This is probably the hardest part of my job, trying to explain what it is we actually do. I was chatting to my boss this morning. I guess the best way to explain it would be a working at height specialist. So a kind of alternative to scaffolding, swing stages, things like that you see hanging off the side of buildings, all that sort of stuff. So we basically use equipment very similar to caving or rock climbing, just a little beefier to access a bunch of locations, whether it's industrial, like refineries, wind turbines, all that sort of stuff. Doing anything from inspection work, painting, welding, electrical, all that sort of stuff. So really what we do is just the access side of it.
Okay. And how, can you talk a little bit about how you got here or how did you choose this career?
Nothing too fancy on that end. I was actually just sitting at a barbecue with a buddy of mine and a friend came in looking for an extra set of hands. I went and helped out on a small job and then he got me into the course sort of after that. I'd never heard of rope access before I came to Canada. The biggest building in my hometown was about 2 stories, so not a big need for it. Yeah, I just got recommended for the course, got put on that, and then hasn't stopped since.
Thank you. I'm going to give it to Brett.
Hey, Brett.
Oh, you're on mute, Brett.
My apologies there. My question is like what education or like training did you need to like get into the job that you're doing now?
For sure. So to get into rope access itself, there's no educational needs, just need to be 18 to get into it. Some companies do require, at least high school diploma or equivalent. Then from there, you go ahead and do a 4 or 5 day training course with an assessment at the end of it. And that's actually what I teach now. But from there, it works kind of like any other apprenticeship program. You have to get 1,000 hours, you have to wait a full year, and then you can come back. And there's 3 levels. So we'll come in, we'll teach a level 1 course for 5 days. The guys get assessed. Then if all goes well, they can come back a year from then with 1,000 hours logged in their book and do another 5 day course, upgrade to a level 2, and then same again, upgrade to a level 3, which is more of a supervisor sort of, journeyman role at that point. I guess, and then from there, I had to do a bunch of extra hours and mentoring to get my instructor certification, but that's a whole separate side there.
That's great. Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, no. So because you mentioned that you're both a rope technician and an instructor, like what's the most enjoyable part of both those roles, and how are they connected together?
For sure. So to become an instructor, you need to be a rope access technician for, I think, at least a few years, and then go through some extra training there. But on the actual, I guess, work side of it, when I was just doing rope work itself, big thing for me was the difference in work. As I said, I've done everything from hanging on the bottom of bridges to off the side of high-rise buildings to oil refineries, and then a bunch of travel that comes with it. It is actually, it's a really international ticket. I think it's recognized in like 60 different countries or something. So you can take this ticket and travel just about anywhere in the world.
That's super. Can you talk about some of the jobs you've done specifically, or some of the, interesting places and the cool stuff that you've done, just to give the students an idea of the scope of what's involved in rope tech?
For sure. I was, I guess, pretty lucky when I started. I finished my course and then they flew me straight out to Alberta, Fort McMurray there, and got on a pretty full-time gig out there at one of the refineries. the majority of the time I was just assisting trades, so doing everything from pipe fitting work. There'd be steam lines that had burst, things like that. So we'd go in, isolate them, fix them, things like that. One of the funnest jobs I do out there, I'd say, would be ice removal. So with all that machinery, there's a lot of stuff that has steam and all sorts of stuff going through it. The older it gets, that stuff breaks. Ice builds up on the side of things and we have to go in there and get it down. I've removed chunks of ice the size of small trucks, just up there with hammer drills, chipping away at the stuff, catching it in nets, kind of using ropes to safely get it all out of there. I remember we were working on the side of a 600-foot smokestack, doing a bunch of concrete repair in the side of that. So if you don't have a specific trade, they can really get you doing just about anything that either nobody else can get to or wants to do, I guess.
That's great. And I would say, from my own understanding of rope tech, this would not be the job for everybody, because obviously it's a great height, and I think there is some physical requirements to it. Can you speak to that a little bit?
For sure. It definitely helps to be fit. You don't need to be an athlete by any means, but if you do get on a busy job, you'll be sitting in a climbing harness for hours at a time, fixing, depending on what it is. So obviously being fit helps, and then not being scared of heights is obviously a big bonus. I'm not a huge fan of heights. I think that's a big part of why I got into teaching, so I can get away from that stuff. But yeah, it just being comfortable, being outside, with the exposure. You know, you hang off the side of a wind turbine or the side of a building, you get some pretty big wind blowing you around there.
Very cool. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, so you just kind of dived into a bit of like what you do for work. What do you think is the most challenging part about what you do?
Well, right now, I'm full-time instructing. So I work at a place called Celtic Falcon over here in Bedford, and I teach full-time now. I guess the most challenging thing there would just be all the new people coming through. So obviously it's just like teaching anything, wide variety of people, trying to get the same information into a bunch of different people. Obviously it takes different methods, I guess. Back when I was doing the sort of hands-on work side of it, I'd say the weather, coming from Australia, then going to work in northern Alberta, getting down to -40 and things like that, gets a bit much for me. Again, why I like to teach inside.
That's great. Can you speak a little bit about Celtic Falcon? So as an assessor trainer and the opportunities perhaps in your trade, and maybe about how unique your trade is, and also so students understand how important Celtic Falcon is internationally with regard to training inside North America and beyond.
For sure. So I'd say I got real lucky. I moved over here to Halifax area with a couple of good recommendations, and got a job here at Celtic Falcon. This place is an amazing training center. The owner here, Danny Thornton, he's actually the assessor. I'm just an instructor. He's been in rope access since rope access was a thing in North America. And I'd say we're one of, if not the best, most recognized training centers in definitely Canada, even North America. We have people flying from all over the place getting over to here on a sort of monthly basis. Yeah, is that?
No, that's great. I think it's just really interesting and really important to expose students to opportunities, in careers that they may not even know existed, but also just where Nova Scotia is in terms of opportunity that may be unique to the rest of the world. And I think what you're doing is pretty special and pretty important. I think that there might be students out there that find this a really attractive opportunity. Can you speak a little bit about the opportunities? So when you say level 1, level 2, level 3, and maybe what the pay scale is that's available there?
For sure. It's an amazing it's definitely a trade. It's not a recognized trade like pipe fitting, plumbing, electrical, that sort of stuff, but it works. It's structured very similar. The beauty is it's always been a pretty decent pay rate. My first job when I started was $25 an hour. And that was out at one of the refineries. And then there was overtime. They were paying for flights, all sorts of stuff like that. The pay rate itself varies, obviously, depending on the industry. If you're out on a refinery, you're going to get a little more than if you're cleaning windows over in the city. But when you're cleaning windows, you get to wear shorts. So it's, the payoff's there. Well, I'd say it averages starting rate would still be at least $20 an hour. I know guys getting upwards of $75, $80 an hour, sort of regular time, and then overtime on top of that. Yeah, that's sort of the high and low end of it. And then one thing I always recommend, we were just talking about welding and stuff before. When I got into rope access, it was still a pretty small industry here. So it was a lot easier to find work. These days, just having a rope ticket, it's getting harder and harder to kind of get a foot in the door. So we always recommend, handing out resumes. There's at least half a dozen companies in, the Halifax area, handing out resumes, doing all that. But then if you can, or you're interested in it, having one of those other trades as well. Welding, electrical, insulating, pipe fitting, they're a few of the big ones. Then there's inspection work and stuff. They all complement rope access really well.
Yeah, that's a great point. So just to open your opportunities and double your options for anywhere. That's great. Brett, I'm going to give it to you.
Like as you've mentioned, you've transitioned to more of like a teaching career at this point, but could you talk a bit more about the work-life balance throughout the different points of your career, being like a rope technician and then now what you do as a teacher?
Yeah, for sure. When I started, I was like 9 years ago or something now. It was as a level 1, I basically finished the course and told them I'll go work wherever for as long as you need me to, sort of thing. I was working some pretty silly shifts, month on, week off, staying in these camps in the refineries, all that sort of stuff. Then I guess as it kind of got more popular, one of the most common sort of rotations you'll get is 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, which is a pretty standard go now, which to me is always great. Even working 6 months a year. And as you go up through the levels, especially if you do have a trade in anything else, there's guys making 120 plus thousand a year, working 6 months a year, home for the other 6. For me though, I had a couple of small kids, so I tried to get away from flying in and out, doing that whole rotation, which obviously everyone from Nova Scotia knows how big of a deal that is, getting out that way to find work, which is a big part of what got me into the teaching side of it, so I could stay home a little more. Now it's great. I've got the dream gig here. I work basically week on, week off with a few hours in between. I get to bring my dog into work. I work 15 minutes from the shop, and I get to meet a whole bunch of new people every week, so it's great.
That's super. I think that's again, touching on that community and just the benefits of having a workplace and the work balance that you have. Are you in the training center right now?
Yes.
Is there anything for us to see there that might be interesting for the students?
I'll turn the camera around here. Let's just have a quick look. I kind of cleaned the place up after the last course. Oh, nope, not that one. There we go. So as you can see here, I'm just sitting in the office. There's the old dog. As you can see, we've just got a whole bunch of ropes kind of hanging from the roof, doing all sorts of weird things. And on the course, as I said, like we teach a 5-day course. A lot of places only teach it in 4, but we just teach a whole bunch of methods for accessing different locations, climbing from one set of ropes to another. And then everything from a bunch of different rescues when we get into the advanced levels, things like that.
That's great. And I think we have some questions in the chat, and some of them might cover some of the questions I want to ask too, but I'm going to let Brett manage that chat right now.
Yes, of course. So the first question is, what is Celtic Falcon? Do you mind diving deep into a bit kind of more what the business you work for does?
For sure. So we're one of the only sort of, I guess, focused training companies. So we do a little bit of operational work on the side, but all of our energy goes to the training side of it, all of our focus there. We sell a bunch of equipment, some other things on the side, but it's basically just IRATA and a different organization, Sprat, but we basically just train these courses whenever we can fill them.
Awesome. And the next question is, how does the rate of pay compare for on the teaching side compared to field workers?
It's still great. I've just recently got onto a salary here, so it's more than comfortable to kind of keep myself at home. But obviously, if you're willing to go work in the cold and do those long shifts, you're going to make a lot more money for sure.
And this was a question that just popped up, and it's also a question that I had as well too, that I was very curious about. But can you name some of the places that you're able to travel to with your work?
Oh, geez. All over Europe. I know it's huge down in Australia. It's all recognised down there. I know guys that have worked down in South America. As I said, I had 2 small kids just after I got qualified, so my travel got kind of limited trying to justify these jobs. But I know my boss worked up in Antarctica for a whole bunch there, all sorts of stuff.
That's super. I have a couple of questions that we might be able to tie in together. Steve, so one of the questions was, what do you do in the 3 different courses? So what are the 3 different levels, how they differentiate? And then with that, I think you can kind of tie in like about the dangers, or when you're looking at a level 3 or whatever, what is, they say death rate, but I'm going to say, let's call it rescue.
Yes. So as we said in that last one there, it's definitely a risky job if it's not done well, if you're not trained properly, if people aren't paying attention. But we kind of brag about how safe the industry is compared to other work at height methods, because we're hanging at ungodly heights off a couple of small ropes here, but everything we do is extremely safety orientated. Everything's got redundant systems in it, so if any one thing fails, we're still safe. Back to the levels there. So as a level 1, you come in and most of what we teach is just access, how to climb up and down a rope, how to climb around different structures, things like that. And then we teach a basic rescue, just so if you happen to be working next to your buddy and he cuts his hand or something like that, you can rescue him down to the ground, get them to paramedics, that sort of thing. Then I'd say going to level 2, it's a big jump. So you go from just being able to get around to then rigging up all these rope systems and then a bunch of different rescues. So most of the areas that a level 1 could manage to get himself stuck, a level 2 needs to be able to get them out of there under the supervision of a level 3. And then level 3s, again, a couple of extra rescues. So basically anywhere that someone could manage to get himself stuck on a rope, we have to be able to get them out of there. And then it's a much bigger push on the supervision, job planning, all that side of it as well. So making sure that before anybody leaves the ground, if something does go wrong, we have a way to get them down.
That's super. And I think we have time for one more question. And you did touch on this, but maybe when you're speaking of levels, maybe the salary range within each level, just a general.
For sure. Yeah, I'd say obviously it always varies company to company, industry, all that sort of thing. But level 1, 20 to 25. Level 2 would be 30 to, I guess, 35, 40. And then level 3s are making anything from, I wouldn't say less than 45, upwards of 75. If you want to go work offshore, if you can get offshore, I think those guys are making like 750, 800 bucks a day sort of stuff. And then I know guys that have trades, so they're journeymen in, say, pipe fitting, and level 3s that are making extra on top of that to then do both jobs.
Yeah, that's great. It's certainly a really interesting industry and a lot of opportunity there. Thank you so much, Stephen. Thanks for jumping in. I'm going to let Brett say the closures for this.
Thank you very much, Steve, for coming in. You definitely have a very unique trade that you do, and you've got to not only get to travel lots, but you've also kind of gotten to transition to different careers within your own field, where it seems like there's lots of opportunities for everybody to find something to do in that space. So thank you very much for speaking to us today, especially on last minute notice as well.
Oh, good. No, thank you guys.
Okay.
Hopefully it helps there.
And if there's any other questions that the students may have, if you don't mind, we email them off to you and you can answer them. We can forward those along to the students.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, my wife still doesn't 100% understand what I do. It's kind of hard to explain sometimes. So feel free, guys, jump on the CelticFalcon.com. That's our website. Obviously, organizes all the courses and all that sort of stuff. But there is a bunch of just photos, videos of the job itself. And then obviously you can Google, YouTube, rope access, all sorts of stuff. You'll find a whole bunch there. Yeah.
That's super. Thank you so much, Steve. Take care. Be safe.
No, thank you guys. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye-bye.